So I was going to make like a pretty intro and edit my videos to be more high quality, blah, blah, blah. Because I was talking to my husband about this and he was like, oh yeah, you should like get a logo and like animate it and make it beautiful and blah, blah. And I was like, I thought about it and I was gonna do it. And then I think just the sheer amount of work that would need to go in for that made me not want to shoot any more videos, which kind of defeats the whole purpose. So for now, we're gonna be low production. I did have an idea of like a cute icon logo thing and like a banner. I have like ideas, but haven't done them yet. And if I do end up wanting to like animate something, I'll probably just hire somebody on Fiverr because I don't know how to animate. It's not my thing. So I did want to do a recap of January. I feel like I made a lot of things in January and had to frog things and redo them. Anyways, so one of the first things that I finished in January was this hat. The pattern is called Graham, and I made this with some wool of the Andes in the color I believe is Solstice Heather. I made it for my husband, but I can also wear it. So he wears it a lot. You can also fold it, but it kind of looks like one of those tight ones. So he usually wears it like this. I didn't block it though. I asked him if he wanted me to block it and he was like, no, it's fine. So just it's as is. And I technically started this in December, so I didn't count it as my first finished object of the year. That would be this poncho that I made for my daughter. This is with Line Brand Baby Soft in Twinkle, held 4 times. And she hates it, as I talked about in my other video, because she can't raise her arms. And when she raises her arms, the whole thing like goes up. And she loves raising her arms, so she hasn't really worn it. Maybe like 3 times. And then my mom was like, oh, you should just like take it out and make something else with the yarn. I was like, but it's like very baby yarn. I don't know what else I could make. Maybe like in a colorway, like in a color work thing as like something small, but I don't know. And then the next thing after I made that and she didn't like it, I made her this cardigan, which I did not gauge swatch. So it is quite a bit larger than the pattern says because I didn't check my gauge. But it's called the Scallop Trim Cardigan. It's a free pattern, and this is with Line Brand Baby Soft, held with Bernat Baby Coordinates. And the Bernat yarn I had forever, so I'm glad to finally use it. And then it has these cute little scallops kind of just along the sleeves and along the like collar here. And for that part, I just held the Bernat double. And so yeah, she'll be able to fit into this eventually. That's how I feel about making baby clothes. And then more exciting in January, I was able to finish some projects I've been working on forever. So the first one is this Weasley sweater. I think I made this in 2013. And I never wove in the ends. I wore it without weaving in the ends. I would just like tuck them in. Like there were all these ends that would stick out the collar and I would just tuck them in after I put it on. It's my Weasley sweater. It has a Q. It's the first sweater I ever made. I didn't know how to do intarsia, so I actually sewed this on after the fact. So I just knitted the sweater stockinette, and then you can tell it's kind of like bumpy because I sewed it on after. So I finally wove in my ends. I blocked it and it looks so much better because before I blocked it, it was like, there's some waist shaping that I did and I don't remember if the pattern calls for waist shaping or I was trying to be like fancy. And it looks less dramatic now. It was like very dramatic before. So I'm glad that that's finally blocked and it's so much softer. This is with Caron Simply Soft. It's already kind of soft yarn, but it was kind of like still acrylic-y. So yeah, that is done. Like literally 10 years in the making, my longest work in progress. And then my other longest work in progress is this Ginny cardigan. So this, I bought the pattern for it in September of 2015. And then I bought a bunch of Rowan True Silk yarn, which is 100% mulberry silk. And then I had to redo it, frogged it so many times because it was like my first kind of complicated sweater. And so I kept messing up on the lace pattern. So the jacket, it's called Ginny's cardigan. It's also like an unofficial Harry Potter thing. But the back of it has this beautiful like owl motif. And so when I first started doing it, I would drop stitches, not knit stitches, and then there'd just be weird holes. It didn't look right. So I kept redoing it. And then I finally like kind of got the hang of it. And then I realized I didn't have enough yarn. So then I went and tried to buy more yarn, but it was discontinued because when I bought the Rowan True Silk, it was super cheap because it was discontinued. So there's no way to get more. And I hadn't like learned about like looking on Ravelry for other people's stashes to see if they'd be willing to sell yarn. That I wasn't even really on Ravelry then. And so that didn't occur to me. And then I think there was a couple times I restarted and was like, maybe if I just knit tighter, I'll have enough yarn. Not realizing like, oh, then it won't fit. I also didn't do gauge then. So yeah, and this I started in September of last year. While my daughter was in the NICU, I was making this sweater, my Let It Fall sweater, which I finished last year, and this one I just finished. And so I ended up then I was like, oh, I can just buy the yarn that's in the pattern. But this pattern came out in 2015. So the yarn that's in the pattern was also discontinued. So then I just tried to find a yarn that was similar. So I ended up knitting this with Swish DK from Knit Picks. So it is a cardigan. It is, then I put these cute little wood buttons. So it's knit in the round, and then I ended up doing, oh, the other reason why it took me forever to make this is because I got stuck on Sleeve Island. So I did one sleeve and then it just sat there for like a month or two before I did the second sleeve. And yeah, and the sleeves got a lot longer when I blocked it, which I should have known, but forgot about. But I like it. It fits well. And then I tried really hard to make the two, because in the end you like pick up stitches along here to make this ribbing for the finishing part, and I tried to match them up so that they would have the same on both sides, and they didn't. I was very off. So I sewed on the buttons just like counting where in the rib I was, and they were so off, so I had to redo it. I also sewed the buttons on in this cute little like flower pattern. I saw it on a Instagram reel, I think, and I think it looks so cute. It has a little extra whimsy, but I actually really like this pattern. I would probably make it again, maybe in like maybe for my daughter when she's a little bit older in like a smaller size, or for my best friend who's also Harry Potter obsessed. I would probably make one for her. And I think because I think the lace pattern in the middle kind of keeps things interesting. But then most of it is really just stockinette, so it's not super difficult. And I think because of the way I knit, I don't mind purling, because it's almost the same motion. I knit, I think it's called throwing, maybe, but I knit with the yarn in my right hand. Although I think when I watch other people knit, it looks a little different. I learned knitting from my mom, who learned knitting in China, so it's whatever they do. And there was a time when I was like, oh, I should learn to continental knit, partly because I injured my right hand and also because I thought I could be faster. But then I thought about it, and I have an aunt who knit a bunch of sweaters for me when I was younger. She knits like a sweater every few days, and she's just like chatting and knitting. So and they would be like these beautiful intarsia sweaters. I remember I had this red sweater that had this like checkered black and red on the top, and then it had a picture of Minnie Mouse holding a plate of pears. I don't know. And then it had this cool like the collar like came down, like was like it like laid flat. And then I also had a yellow sweater that she made me, and it had a kid with a balloon, and then the sleeves had different colored flowers on them. And then I had another sweater that was blue, and the front had 2 chicks fighting over a worm, and then the back had Minnie Mouse on a canoe. And it was like not Minnie, like the cute Minnie, but Minnie like early Minnie, where she had like the long nose, kind of like early Arthur. And so, and my aunt, like just every time I visit, she's knitting. She knits so fast. And my mom too, which kind of like in the beginning when I started knitting was very intimidating. One, because my mom wouldn't teach me to knit because I wanted to learn in high school. And she was like, no, you're supposed to be studying, not teaching you to knit. So I actually asked one of my friends' moms to teach me to knit. And then my mom got mad that I asked my friend's mom, because she's like, she's not good at knitting. Why did you ask her? And I was like, because you wouldn't teach me. My friend also gifted me Fun Fur to learn to knit, which is like eyelash yarn, which is not a good first yarn. So then my mom ended up teaching me. But then sometimes I remember in the past, I'd be home for the summer and I was knitting this interlac blanket because I saw a really cool pattern. And then my mom was like, oh, you knit so slow. And then she just took over and then like finished the blanket in a week, and then bought more yarn and made herself the same blanket. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll knit something else. She doesn't do that anymore. So, but yeah. Another thing that I started in December that I finished in January is this Luminen sweater. I love it. It's so pretty. It's super bulky yarn, so it's really fast. And then this lace pattern is so pretty and like pretty easy. There is a part where you have to knit, I think like 5 together, and that is really hard for me. I always drop one, so I ended up using a crochet hook. No, not a crochet hook. I have this is not it. Okay, I don't know where it is. I'm gonna have to find it, but it's like I got it from a kit from Crafter Box. But it's a crochet hook on one end, and then it has like a needle on the other end, like with the eye, and so you can just pull it through. But I did have to make this. I had to frog it and remake it. So this yarn I had originally bought to make this sweater, and then for some reason I was like, I don't want to pay for the pattern. I was being cheap, so I tried to find a free pattern. So I found the pattern for the lumpy sweater, which is by the same designer, and it's just like an oversized crop sweater. I made the whole thing. I blocked it. I put it on. Didn't like it. Did not try it on at all. During my knitting process, also did not gauge because that was 2022 and didn't start gauging till 2023. And so then I was like, I don't like it. And so I was like, you know what? I should just buy the pattern. It's like not even that expensive. It's a couple bucks. So bought the pattern. I made it. I started making it over Christmas. I took it to my in-laws' house and didn't bring the right needles. So you're supposed to switch from like 13 to 15, and I brought 13 only. And then I was like, oh, it'll look fine. And then I looked and I was like, no, I should really just take it out and restart it. So I restarted it. And then it was kind of like my downstairs couch knit. So I have usually several works in progress going on. And so I have one upstairs that's like next to my computer that I knit if I'm watching something on my computer or I'm during a boring meeting, so I stay awake or pay attention. And then I have like my downstairs knitting, which I just keep downstairs by the couch, so I knit that. And then I have like one in my bedroom that I knit if I'm pumping milk or something. So this is my downstairs knit. So it actually took me a while, even though it's such bulky yarn. And I knit the sleeves 2 at a time, which helped me finish the sleeves. Because otherwise, I think if I had knitted only 1 at a time, it would have taken me a long, long time because I would have finished one and then not wanted to do the second. But it's so warm and like huggy. I don't even know if that's the right word to use, huggy. Hug. But I love it, and it's so beautiful. And the only thing is, I live in Northern California, so it's not that cold. I think the coldest it got was maybe like 30 at night, 30 degrees Fahrenheit at night, so like 0 Celsius at nighttime. So I don't think I'm gonna have that many opportunities to wear this, especially since I'm indoors most of the time. But if I go, I'm gonna find an opportunity. Maybe I'll have to go up to Tahoe where there's snow and wear it. Sometimes I think like, oh, what if I had just moved What if I moved to somewhere where it snows? But I've lived in Pennsylvania and New York, and I don't want to live where it snows. I don't want to have to like shovel snow off my driveway or wipe snow off my car while it's snowing so it doesn't freeze later. Just all of that. I remember being stuck in the snow and having to get pushed out. There was like a big snowstorm and I was determined to go home. I was like, I've been at the hospital on call for 36 hours. I need to go home. And took my little Mazda, and every time someone pushed me out of the snow, they were like, do you have 4-wheel drive? And I was like, no. They're like, why are you driving? I was like, I need to go home. I've been at the hospital for 1.5 days. I need to go home. Didn't have 4-wheel drive, didn't have snow tires, woefully unprepared. I remember trying to go home on my normal route and my car just started sliding backwards because it couldn't handle it, so I had to go around. And then by the time I got home, the parking lot was full of snow. So I tried to park in this spot. My car was halfway out. And I was so afraid that someone was gonna like drive in and like hit my car because it wasn't all the way in the spot. Because it was kind of like you enter and then I parked right there. And so if someone's trying to turn, like didn't make the turn. And then so like later when it stops, I took a nap and then I went and I was like trying to shovel snow. And then next to me was this other guy who also was not from the Northeast, and he had like a dustbin. And so we kind of helped each other out, but it was, yeah, I was like, I don't want to live there. I love living in Northern California where the weather is nice and it's not too hot in the summer, it's not too cold in the winter, and if I want snow, I can just drive up to Tahoe and there's snow. If I want to go to the beach, I can drive there. It's beautiful. I love it. So I will find an opportunity to wear this because it's just so fuzzy. I just want to cuddle it all the time. Also, I